Okay, so, um, a lot of people are kind of confused about the whole Mordekaiser situation, like when I'm drawing him, that kind of thing. Mostly because, like, people aren't inside my head, and I have to realize that they don't understand my thought process behind, a lot of my Mordekaiser art, right? So people are like, why the fuck are you drawing this, right? And a lot of people think that I ship currently, like, the canon Mordekaiser and the current canon Veigar, which isn't true. It's just not. To me, shipping isn't really what I'm doing with them. It's more of a thing of, I wanted to make Veigar's suffering much more impactful, I guess. I've got it in my notes here, because I really wanted to go over this, right? For the record, Mordekaiser in his current state and Veigar are not a good relationship, and they aren't ever going to be, right? Mostly because it's just straight up an abusive situation, right? And I want people to know that I'm fully aware of that. But I'm asking you to see what I'm trying to convey within the storytelling I'm going on here, right? They don't hold hands anymore, Sag. Like Jesse. They're like Jesse and Walter White. Wow. Anyway. It's more like it was once a beautiful, like, supportive relationship, and now it's gone, and it's never going to be ever coming back. And I think that's like a really fun kind of way to make this more personal, because it's very clear from, like, Mordekaiser's voice lines that he regards Veigar very fondly. Like, he, like, gets very happy when he, like, comes across him in game, which is not the same for most of the people that he put through torture. Like, he views Vladimir as a fucking bitch. He says that he's nothing but a stain on the history books. And he says that LeBlanc is just a petty manipulator. But Veigar gets a very different kind of treatment to him. Which is why I wanted to go into their story together in the first place. Because, you know, I really like Veigar. And I just wanted to go through every, like, ounce of his personality, right? And being trapped by Mordekaiser is, like, some of the most that's, like, some of the most impactful things to happen to Veigar in his life, right? And I think that the idea that once upon a time, like, when Mordekaiser was alive, they were in a healthy, committed relationship, but one day Mordekaiser dies, right? And he comes back as a revenant. And the thing is, revenants don't have... They slowly begin to lose themselves, essentially. Like Pike, and that kind of thing. You don't... Like, he loses parts of himself. It all becomes fuzzy and blurry. Like, I want it to be a situation where Veigar has more of a personal stake in this, right? Instead of Mordekaiser just being some random dude that kidnapped and, like, enslaved him for 1,000 years, right? I want him to be, like, an active part. Because I think that stories that have characters like, make choices are better than stories in which characters don't do anything and things just happen to them. Like, one day Veigar was minding his business, and the next day Mordekaiser took him, and now he's fucked up forever. Like, that's fine. It's a simple story, and if that's the story that Riot wants to tell, I mean, I can't change anything about that, right? But, like the thing of, like, having someone that you deeply cared about slowly lose themselves and slowly become more and more angry at the, like, not with that attitude. My gosh. Anyway. But, like, having someone, like, that you cared about very deeply slowly lose themselves and slowly become less and less like themselves while still maintaining, like a decent grip on things is a very specific kind of terror. Like, you can see it with Veigar, how he's, like, not... What the fuck? Like, Veigar isn't fully gone. He still has his personality and that kind of thing, but he forgets how things used to be. He forgets how badly he treated Isolde in some of these times, and how, like, rocky his relationship actually was with her. And I feel like that can be applied to Mordekaiser. While he is still, like, much more in control of himself than a lot of the undead are, he still loses himself. While he wasn't an angel in his, like, living life, right? He would still have the idea that Veigar didn't cause any of this. I want him to, like... Basically, it goes from depression to anger, where Mordekaiser thinks that Veigar is the reason why he didn't actually get into the heaven he wanted to, essentially, right? And so it's a justified anger towards him. But slowly it just becomes nothing but an exercise in control. And while that, like, trauma and torture is still there, like, it's clear that Mordekaiser still cares about Veigar. Veigar isn't just another victim to him. He's not another body or anything like that. He's someone specific to him. He's not just another, like, whining little victim. He is someone important. And I think that's a very specific distinction to make. Like, the whole, like, horror of this situation is seeing someone who you cared for basically, like, become a monster. And now it's just a monster wearing your dead lover's face. Which, first of all, Yordles aren't very good at dealing with, like, loved ones dying in the first place, because they've never... Well, they weren't really wired to do so. But also having someone you care about come back from the dead and then slowly get confused and angry at you is another thing. And I think that's a very, like, I don't know, it's just like an interesting dynamic to have with someone, right? And that's why I wanted to show them as romantic in the first place. Not only because, like, you've got the whole thing of now you've got something that like, you can compare like Viego and Mordekaiser in more ways now than just being undead kings. Whereas like Viego chose love over running a country. Mordekaiser chose running a kingdom over love. And I think that's a cool twist, right? But also, you've got the whole thing of Mordekaiser literally falling in love with something that isn't real. And I think that's a good metaphor for something, you know? Because Mordekaiser was so preoccupied with this idea of getting to the heaven that he was so dearly promised that he didn't actually live his life like fully and that kind of thing. And like instead of reflecting on that, he becomes more and more embittered and that kind of thing. So basically, yeah, that's how I would like for the thing to be written. Domestic abuse isn't fun, but it's a very nuanced discussion. And I think that, like, the type of trauma that Veigar experiences can be a lot more compelling and deep than it currently is. I mean, I don't think they're actually going to do this, of course, but, you know, that's what I'm going for, right? So whenever I'm drawing them in a loving, happy relationship, it's there so that when the relationship ultimately fails, it hurts. It's because you've got happy moments to juxtapose with how like awful everything has gotten. Anyway, Mordekaiser rant over, I guess. Does anyone